bringing you stories from the world of business, policy and economy. Nestle is in news. Reports claim that Nestle adds nearly 2.7 grams sugar in every serving of Cerelac. That's literally half a teaspoon of sugar added. In fact, it adds sugar and honey to infant milk as well as cereal products. But that's not it. It does not add sugar in other developed countries as opposed to developing or poorer countries like Asia, Africa, Latin America, including India, while the same products are sold sugar-free in United Kingdom, Germany, Switzerland and other developed economies. A classic case of modern-day discrimination, apartheid if you may call it, if the investigation by Public Eye, a Swiss investigative organization, is to be believed. Now, a newborn baby does not need sugar. In fact, it is in violation of the international guidelines that focus on preventing obesity and chronic diseases. So why does it do it? Because sugar is addictive and more parents buying Cerelac means better sales and bigger bottom lines. Nestle has in fact shared a statement with us here at News9. It will be on your screens very shortly. The question, of course, that we're asking is Nestle in the wrong for adding sugar, even if it advertises on the back of each pack? Joining us on the broadcast will be Dilip Cherian. He's an image guru. With us at the moment is Dr. Shikha Sharma. She is the founder for OneHealth. Dr. Shikha, thank you very much for taking time out. Karthik Malhotra here with me in the studios. I want to begin with the first question. I think that's the most basic of them all. And that is, Nestle shares this information on the back of every pack of Cerelac that it sells. Therefore, is it a violation in any way or any form as per the existing guidelines in India?
See, technically what is important is that most companies would not violate blatantly any regulator because that could call for penal action. But the case in point over here is that the same product which is being sold in European markets with lesser, with much lesser quantity of sugar, and here in Indian and developing countries like Brazil or Africa, it is selling with higher quantities of sugar. Obviously, it is selling for taste, or it is selling because of pricing pressure. So what is very important to understand is that why does a good company do this for a consumer where it's making billions of dollars in revenue? So what is important to understand is that, is it because Indian consumer is not aware? Is it because Indian consumer is not demanding? Is it because over here, because of the pricing pressure, the company feels if we add more sugar, then the cost will be lesser? Or is it that Indian consumer wants more sugar? So all these things are very problematic, and therefore for a company to sell different product, for different variations of the same product, is a question, especially when the customer or the consumer is a baby who cannot decide for himself and has to eat whatever the mother or the parents feed the baby.
Dr. Sharma, good evening. Thank you for being here with us. I'm Karthik Malhotra. Want to get your views on what is the dietary requirement for children pertaining to sugar. Do children need any form of added sugar in their food? Is it beneficial if it is administered to them in whatever quantity, or is it absolutely incorrect? As a dietitian, what would be your recommendation as far as sugar to children is concerned?
There is zero requirement of sugar for the baby. A small baby, and especially a 6 months old baby, 7 months, 1 year baby, does not need sugar at all. In fact, most pediatricians would say that do not give your child sugar or salt till 2 years, because the baby does not need it. Because natural sugar and natural salt is found in weaning foods like mashed potato, like mashed apple or mashed banana. All of them have natural sugar, and that's good enough for the baby. They don't need added sugar in any product at all. On the contrary, I would say it's harmful for the baby, and it's not required at all.
Right. So if it is harmful for the baby, if it is not required at all, then why do Indian regulators actually permit children's food items to be sold with added sugar in them?
See, what is very important is that a regulator basically creates a template that, okay, this is the maximum permissible. But the regulator does not define what is ideal. And because, see, for a regulator, they have to have a level playing field for thousands of products and doesn't go into the nitty-gritties of each product specifically or each brand. So the regulator will say, okay, these are the templates, or within this you have to work. A good company is expected to know, a company which has been working for many years, for decades in the field, is expected to know that if they're doing their research right, if they're and most companies are supposed to do their own research in, if they are in specialized products like infant feeding formulas or in specialized formulas, that what is right for the baby. So that is what is questionable, that they knew that it is not good, and yet they allowed such products, or they willingly let these products come into the Indian market just because there was a loophole, just
And
because it was not tight enough. Yeah.
all right, if I may, Dr. Shikha, we saw the back of that Cerelac pack. We were actually trying to figure out whether Cerelac is forthcoming, whether Nestle is forthcoming in declaring the nutrition value that it offers through each serving. And they very much advertise that they put in sugar, they put in added sugar as honey as well. And now we do know, as per Indian law, there is no upper limit to which extent you can add sugar. In a sense, obviously, Nestle is in compliance with the law of the land, and there is a loophole, and therefore it's doing what it must. At this point in time, is it even right to question Nestle? Because it is saying that we've done so for years, we're reducing gradually, we've reduced about 30% in the last 5 years, our added sugar content in Cerelac and other milk-related products that we are offering for infants in the country. Is it even right of us to, pick on one report that has come out in foreign publications and to question Nestle back here in India?
See, I would say that a company which has been in a particular industry and is considered the giant and the leader of that industry has to work, and who's continuously doing research and claims that this is the cutting edge, or this is the gold mark or gold standard company in which we are working, then it is incumbent on that company to do the right thing. It is getting billions of dollars from India. It's not a small vendor. It's not a roadside vendor who says, I did not know, or I don't have the resources to actually do the right thing because I'm constrained. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the money. I don't have the equipment. It's not a small resource. It's a global company. It's a global giant. And also realizing that this is not good for the child, in European markets, it's releasing a different version. That means it knows that what is right. Now, knowing what is right and then deliberately doing something else is the question mark. It's not that they were not following the laws of the land. Obviously, they follow the laws of the land. But the question is that if they found a loophole, would they exploit it? Or would they still continue to work within the right guidelines? And that is the bigger question when you are a giant in the field, when other companies look up to you as a gold standard.
Okay, I'm not sure if you'll have exact data for me, Dr. Sharma, but the question which is bothering me right now is that what are the alternatives to sugar? I think the basic understanding tells you that dates or figs or any fruit extracts could serve as natural alternatives to sugar. But would you have some data on what is the kind of cost difference between using sugar and using healthier sugar alternatives, and what is the kind of percentage impact that will happen on on the cost of producing the packet of Cerelac, for example?
So I'll take it as another way. The first thing is that within India, firstly, I would say that for thousands of years, mothers have been feeding their babies and weaning their babies on natural food, whether it is khichdi or whether it is some sort of, dalia or some other, like mashed banana or apple or whatever. So the question is that this product is not a product which is required every day for the child. That is very important for all mothers to understand. It is not something you should be giving your child every day. Number two, if we look at reducing sugar, then what will happen is that the mothers would put something else as a natural sugar to make it sweeter for the child or make it palatable, because many of the products, when they come without sugar, it is not very palatable. But the way European mothers are doing, the same thing Indian mothers can do, is add a banana or add something and make it for this baby. That is a good enough reason. See, the question is, had they not had a variant in Europe, then one would say, oh, is it possible? Is the formulation even possible? Or there could be many other doubts in the mind. But they have a variation and it's selling in Europe. The
All right,
question is,
Dr. Shikha, I would come back to you on that question. Dilip Cherian also with us on the show. Dilip, we're looking at the statement that has been put out by Nestle. I'll read that for the benefit of our viewers. It says, compliance is essential characteristic of Nestle India and we will never compromise on compliance. Nestle is saying we are complying with the law of the land. If there's an absence of law, that's not a problem. We are packaging and we are showing what we are packaging on that very packet of Cerelac. Therefore, we are in compliance of the law. What sort of impact are you looking at as far as this big controversy around added sugar is concerned?
My sense is that Nestle is trying to say that they are compliant, but avoiding the question of whether they are discriminating against Indian babies. There is no doubt that what they've done is absolutely incorrect. I don't think we need to mince our words on this. Dr. Sharma has already said that sugar is not necessary. And I think that the reason of wanting to sell it because Indian mothers may find it more tasty is the oldest excuse in the book. The fact that the regulator didn't
Dilip, I believe you
perhaps an error, but that is something that we can't do anything about. The main thing to remember is that Nestle has violated the spirit of wanting to treat the Indian market as equal to markets where regulations are stricter. Just because regulations are slightly lax in India for historic reasons, it does not mean that it should sell a product which is distinctly harmful to children. Not just a lower quality, is distinctly harmful to children, and you're creating an addiction to sugar which you should avoid.
Dilip, I have a very simple question. Nestle has been very honest in its disclosures at the back of every Cerelac packet, and it tells you how much sugar is added in every serving. Is the problem therefore at some level on us as Indians to not reject these products and compel the company to go ahead and make healthier options available for us and our children?
There are two people who should take these decisions. One is government, whose regulations are lax and they need to be pulled up for it. The second is companies need to understand that they cannot sell a telephone in India which has a higher radiation level just because the government is not specifying something. This is not something that we as Indian consumers may be aware of widely enough. And that is a problem with Indian consumer education. But I think companies know what they're doing, governments should know what they're doing, and therefore we need to pin the blame exactly where it belongs. Let's not try and find ways, because there is no advantage to us as either media or as consumers, to allow the blame to slip between the cracks. It may be compliant, but is it good? The answer is no, it's not a good product. Is it sold similarly in other markets? No, it's not. Therefore, the company knew better and it didn't do better.
Dilip, I have one more question, and since you're somebody who understands brands much better than us, there are startups in India which have launched healthier alternatives to children's food and to us as well. And one example I can give you is perhaps a drink that you would have encountered as well, which is the raw pressery, which does not add preservatives and does not add sugar. As consumers, very few of us can go ahead and afford those healthier options in our packaged goods dietary needs. So if Nestle, Cerelac were to go ahead with an option which is healthier, albeit more expensive, is that going to do more harm than good to the country, because a large chunk of the population may not be able to afford it?
If you are implying that putting sugar or adding sugar to these products is a means of lowering manufacturing costs, I don't think that's correct. Second, I think that it's great to have products which conform to what are currently scientifically accepted norms, and they will be more expensive. But the power of brands, and I've worked with over 1,000 brands over the years, over the last 30 years, and let me tell you, the power of brands is that they are able to expand market share, they're able to keep unit costs down, they're able to do market penetration at scales that almost no other products can do. But in the process, very often, if they are not totally globally ethical, and if governments in India don't pay enough attention to what the constraints ought to be, then they will always cut corners. And we need to be conscious of that.
All right, Dilip, will it be far-fetched, therefore, to say this is a classic case of discrimination against Indians as well as Asians, Latin Americans, countries that are traditionally considered to be poor markets by a big brand like Nestle, which can afford to give a better product, a better quality product to a European country, to the US, to the UK, as opposed to a country which they traditionally consider to be poor?
That, I'm afraid, is the only conclusion we can reach. As I said, they can make much more profits in India simply because of the fact that it tastes good. Mothers who want to be upwardly mobile, it is almost as if it's a product which makes them feel that they've joined a global elite. I think that is wrong on the part of both companies and government to not have cracked down on this much earlier when the scientific evidence is incontrovertible.
So what does one do? Shweta, I think the larger question is, what can we as citizens of this country do? Because if there is compliance legally, and if there is an unethical, not an illegal, but an unethical practice being followed by a multinational brand, what options do we have, Dilip?
You know, is there a lesson that one can also learn from what happened with Nestle when it came to Maggi? The huge backlash, the public uproar, the pullback of Maggi as a product from various shelves and various stores, and Nestle forced to come out in public, acknowledge that there is a problem, apologize and make amends. What are the options available with us as Indians today?
I think citizen groups, doctors, media and government all ought to come together and check which other products, similar things are happening to. If you discovered, for example, that a big car company was skimping on the brake linings because it was being sold in India, would we not raise a shindy about it, though the consumer would never know, the customer would never find out till it was too late? I think it's time that government, media and those entrusted with the task of keeping standards pure and simple and adhered to, get up and blow the whistle.
Dr. Shikha Sharma, before we let you go, I believe you're both on a timer, but before we let you go, we've seen Patanjali and the Supreme Court literally wrapping the knuckles of Patanjali founder Baba Ramdev not once but twice in the recent past. We've seen Bonvita and finally the health label being ripped off Bonvita. And now we are seeing Cerelac by Nestle. Shweta also mentioned Maggi in the past. Are we seeing too many of these cases, and yet as citizens we are not doing enough to boycott these products and not consume them?
Yes, I think the first step obviously is awareness. Before the habits change, where habits are, the realignment of habits, the first stage is awareness, and I must congratulate media that it is taking up these very important issues on its important programs. So first is awareness, and I think because the child is the most sacrosanct member of the family, I think in this case the results will be very different. The mothers will definitely not have so many products coming from this brand because one can take risks with your own health, and people do, but with the child's health, no mother, no parent will ever take a risk. So I think it's very important that the brand recognizes that a child is a very different consumer, and there one has to make sure that they are keeping the best standards possible within its manufacturing practices. And as a consumer, I would tell the mothers, why are you going and feeding the child artificial products? Please feed the child natural, because you are also getting your child addicted to these products, and eventually the child will have health problems. So let's go back and start looking at natural foods, which is the only way to become healthy.
All right, Dr. Shikha Sharma, Dilip Cherian, thank you very much, the two of you, for joining us here on this very important story. Nestle is in news for wrong reasons, unfortunately, yet again. Nestle's Cerelac and other products have found to contain sugar, added sugar, to the tune of about 2.7 grams for each serving. This has created an uproar since the founding and the findings from, in fact, a study were published this morning in The Guardian. There is a social media backlash. The question, of course, that we're asking here is that how much sugar is too much sugar? That is number one. And whether Nestle is in compliance with the law of the land to serve sugar to infants. Remember, sugar is not needed for infants. They don't need sugar. So to what extent can we actually hold Nestle responsible? All of those conversations happening here on News 9. But before we let you go, Rushil Decors is one of India's leading companies in homes furnishing as well as decorative high-pressure laminates, a listed company that exports to over 50 countries across the world. News 9's Krishna Kumar spoke to Rushil Thakkar, Executive Director of Rushil Decors, in an exclusive chat about the company's journey so far and its plans for the future. Take a look.
We're in conversation with Mr. Rushil Thakkar, Executive Director of Rushil Decors Limited, a company that manufactures furniture and home furnishing, including laminated sheets and medium density fiber or MDF boards and PVC boards, a company that was founded back in the year 1993 in Ahmedabad in